Hello everybody, I'm Brandon from XEROProducts, and today I have a XERO Pure system here, and today we are going to test the difference of flow out of our standard pole hose, that 5/16 hose, and our high flow hose. So right now, we have our XERO Pure hooked up with our Flexzilla hose here, so got a 5/8 diameter here, and we're gonna go ahead and run water into the system, and we're gonna monitor the flow here. Now we have a couple neat tools here I wanna point out. This little tube here will measure flow as it comes through this metal marker here. So it'll rise as the flow comes through, and you'll get a measurement of GPM and liters per minute. And then on the other end of the hose, we have a neat tool here from Restmo. So this is a digital flow meter. So you can see your GPM, your gallons per minute, your gallons per day, your total amount of gallons that have run through this. So it's a very neat tool to see how much water is coming out of your system. So that being said, we're gonna go ahead and run water into this system and get some results. All right. So we have our incoming pressure here. Let's see if we can get a better view. So our carbon filter's filling up. We're gonna wait a moment for our wastewater to start kicking out some air. Yep, we've got the air. And gradually we're having the discharge of our salts and other concentrated solids. So it's winter time here, and that means the water temperature that we're dealing with is going to be colder. Now what that means is cold water equals a little less flow. So in summertime, once the groundwater has heated up a little bit, we see temperatures around 70 degrees here, which we get more flow. But now, since it's winter, I am below 50 degrees right now. In fact, a little above 45 degrees. So our pressure is building up right now. We're currently sitting at about 100 over here. And now we are starting to get flow out of the system. Let's crank up our pressure. So you'll notice here, I have our flow meter pointing out the direct output from the system. Now, the water has to travel up directly, so there is a slight loss here, but you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. So we're looking at about a half gallon per minute currently, as this system is starting to pressurize. We're getting down to 90 PSI. So now, out of 100 foot of 5/16 hose, let us see what our current output is. Okay, so from the outlet of the system here, we're a little bit above half a gallon a minute. I want to say 0.6. Out of the 100-foot hose here, we're somewhere between 0.3 and 0.4 gallons per minute. So at this point, we're losing about 0.1 and a half after traveling 100 feet of 5/16 hose. Now, for experimentation's sake, let's skip the vertical and so now, going directly into the hose, let's get that water hooked up again. Okay. Once again, you can hear that air come out. Got our wastewater coming out. Little by little, let's start getting that output again. Back at 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, back down to 0.5. So it's directly a half gallon per minute right now at 45 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's cold, a little less flow than you'd be getting in the summertime. So that's what it's looking like right out of 100 feet of 5/16 hose. So again, we are getting a half gallon per minute out of this 100 feet of hose here. Now we are just testing 100 feet of hose. Now you might be running 40-foot hose or 50-foot, depending on what length you're running. The further that the water has to travel, you're gonna see a slight drop in flow. So 100 foot of 5/16 hose may put out slightly less water than a 40 foot or 10 foot at that. So bear that in mind. There are little factors that play into your flow rate there, aside from the temperature and your inner diameter. How far does it have to travel? You're gonna have some drop off. So on the subject of diameter, since we've tested 100 feet of our standard 5/16 hose, now through the same conditions, we are gonna run our high flow hose through this system and see what kind of output we are getting. So we have the same XERO Pure here, and we are gonna run the high flow hose now out of this system. So we have the same conditions as far as our source and our hookups. We have our 5/8 Flexilla here, and temperature is going to be around the same. Let's see. So we're going to get the water in the system. I have both spigots opening. Let's see what the cold does. So as always, you're going to hear like a hissing. You know, that's the air. There's always air trapped. As it pressurizes, you can hear all that bubbling. And I'm gonna note, looks like the temperature went up a little bit from what we were rocking before, at least 5 degrees. But I can tell you directly out of the system, before we were around 0.5, 0.6 gallons per minute. Now we're pushing about 0.9, almost a gallon per minute. Temperature has dropped a little, so I'm curious to see how much we're gonna drop. So, that being said, our pressure is around 80 PSI now. I'm gonna crank that up. See what we can get maxed out here. Temperature is dropping, 48 degrees. The output from the system has dropped a little due to the temperature, so we're sitting around 0.8 gallons per minute. So now, let's see what's coming out of 100 feet of our high flow hose here. So we are looking at 0.6, 0.7. So compared to the 5/16 hose, we see a boost of about 0.2 to 0.3 gallons per minute, which is pretty good. Think of a quarter gallon per minute boost right now. However, we are currently having water travel up and then through this 100 feet of hose. Let's just figure out directly from the system to the hose if we're getting any drop off and what our true output is going to be in these conditions. Back in action. PSI is going up, just above 80, pushing 90, and around 90-ish PSI, maybe 95. So now, we're looking at, it's jumping to 0.7 gallons per minute. So still about a quarter gallon, a little more than a quarter gallon per minute boost out of 100 feet of the high flow hose through the same conditions that we put the 100 feet of 516 hose through. So I should note that while I'm getting these results are affected by my conditions right now. I have cold water running through 100 feet of hose. If I was running 50 feet or 10 feet of hose out of this system, same diameter, you might see a little more water come out of the system because the water doesn't have to travel as far. And if you're using a pole that's going vertical, well, the water has to travel up. So there's a lot of little factors that you want to pay attention to. With the observations we've made now, we're looking at a 1/4 gallon per minute boost right now. So I would say I'd love to do this test again through warmer conditions to see what kind of output we would get at that point. That's all I have for you. Brandon, XERO Products.